Section 5. Computer Data Storage. Introduction. In this previous study section, we learned that operating system is an essential component of the system software in a computer system. Application programs usually require an operating system to function. In this study section, we will learn about computer data storage, often called storage or memory. It is a technology consisting of computer components and recording media used to retain digital data. It is a core function and fundamental component of the computer system. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to explain the computer storage, discuss the hierarchy of storage, point out the characteristics of computer storage. Data storage. The central processing unit (CPU) of a computer is what manipulates data by performing computations. In practice, almost all computers use a storage hierarchy which puts fast but expensive and small storage options close to the CPU as shown, and slower but larger and cheaper options further away. Often the fast, volatile technologies which lose data when powered off are referred to as memory, while slower permanent technologies are referred to as storage, but these terms are often used interchangeably. Hierarchy of storage. Generally, the lower a storage is in this hierarchy, the lesser its bandwidth and the greater its access latency is from the CPU. This traditional division of storage to primary, secondary, and tertiary is also guided by cost per bit. In contemporary usage, memory is usually semiconductor storage, read-write random access memory, typically DRAM, dynamic RAM, or other forms of fast but temporary storage. Storage consists of storage devices and their media not directly accessible by the CPU, secondary or tertiary storage, typically hard disk drives, optical disk drives, and other devices slower than RAM but non-volatile, retaining content when powered down. Historically, memory has been called core, main memory, real storage or internal memory, while storage devices have been referred to as secondary storage, external memory, or auxiliary peripheral storage. Computer storage hierarchy. Primary storage. Primary storage, also known as main memory or internal memory, often referred to simply as memory, is the only one directly accessible to the CPU. The CPU continuously reads instructions stored there and executes them as required. Any data actively operated on is also stored there in uniform manner. As shown in the diagram figure 5.2, traditionally there are two more sublayers of the primary storage besides main large capacity RAM. 1. Processor registers are located inside the processor. Each register typically holds a word of data, often 32 or 64 bits. CPU instructions instruct the arithmetic and logic unit to perform various calculations or other operations on this data, or with the help of it. Registers are the fastest of all forms of computer data storage. 2. Processor cache is an intermediate stage between ultra-fast registers and much slower main memory. It was introduced solely to improve the performance of computers. Most actively used information in the main memory is just duplicated in the cache memory, which is faster but of much lesser capacity. 3. On the other hand, main memory is much slower but has a much greater storage capacity than processor registers. Multi-level hierarchical cache setup is also commonly used, primary cache being smallest, fastest and located inside the processor, secondary cache being somewhat larger and slower. Main memory is directly or indirectly connected to the central processing unit via a memory bus. It is actually two buses, not on the diagram, an address bus and a data bus. The CPU firstly sends a number through an address bus, a number called memory address that indicates the desired location of data. Then it reads or writes the data in the memory cells using the data bus. Secondary storage. Secondary storage, also known as external memory or auxiliary storage, differs from primary storage in that it is not directly accessible by the CPU. The computer usually uses its input-output channels to access secondary storage and transfers the desired data using intermediate area in primary storage. Secondary storage does not lose the data when the device is powered down, that is, it is non-volatile. In modern computers, hard disk drives are usually used as secondary storage. The time taken to access a given byte of information stored on a hard disk is typically a few thousandths of a second or milliseconds. By contrast, the time taken to access a given byte of information stored in a random access memory is measured in billionths of a second or nanoseconds. This illustrates the significant access time difference which distinguishes solid-state memory from rotating magnetic storage devices. Hard disks are typically about 1 million times slower than memory. Rotating optical storage devices such as CD and DVD drives have even longer access time. With disk drives, once the disk read or write head reaches the proper placement and the data of interest rotates under it, subsequent data on the track are very fast to access. To reduce the seek time and rotational latency, data are transferred to and from disk in large contiguous blocks. Some other examples of secondary storage technologies are flash memory, e.g. USB flash drives or keys, floppy disk, magnetic tape, paper tape, punched cards, standalone RAM disks, and Lumega zip drive. The secondary storage is often formatted according to a file system format, which provides the abstraction necessary to organize data into files and directories, providing also additional information called metadata, describing the owner of a certain file, the access time, the access permissions, and other information. Tertiary storage. Tertiary storage or tertiary memory provides a third level of storage. Typically, it involves a robotic mechanism which will mount, insert, and dismount removable mass storage media into a storage device according to the system's demands. This data is often copied to secondary storage before use. It is primarily used for achieving rarely accessed information since it is much slower than secondary storage, e.g. 5 to 60 seconds versus 1 to 10 milliseconds. This is primarily useful for extraordinarily large data stores accessed without human operators. Typical examples include tape libraries and optical jukeboxes. When a computer needs to read information from the tertiary storage, it will first consult a catalog database to determine which tape or disk contains the information. Next, the computer will instruct a robotic arm to fetch the medium and place it in a drive. When the computer has finished reading the information, the robotic arm will return the medium to its place in the library. Computer tertiary storage. Characteristics of computer data storage. Storage technologies at all levels of the storage hierarchy can be differentiated by evaluating certain core characteristics as well as measuring characteristics specific to a particular implementation. These core characteristics are volatility, mutability, accessibility, and addressability. For any particular implementation of any storage technology, the characteristics worth measuring are capacity and performance. Volatility. Non-volatile memory will retain the stored information even if it is not constantly supplied with electric power. It is suitable for long-term storage of information. Volatile memory requires constant power to maintain the stored information. The fastest memory technologies of today are volatile ones, not a universal rule. Since primary storage is required to be very fast, it predominantly uses volatile memory. Read or write storage or mutable storage allows information to be overwritten at any time. A computer without some amount of read or write storage for primary storage purposes will be useless for many tasks. Modern computers typically use read or write storage also for secondary storage. Read-only storage retains the information stored at the time of manufacture, and write-once storage, write-once read many, allows the information to be written only once at some point after manufacture. These are called immutable storage. Examples include CD-ROM and CDR. Slow write, fast read storage. It is a read or write storage which allows information to be overwritten multiple times, but with the write operation being much slower than the read operation. Examples include CD-RW. Accessibility. Random access. Any location in storage can be accessed at any moment in approximately the same amount of time. Such characteristic is well suited for primary and secondary storage. Sequential access. The access to pieces of information is in a serial order, one after the other. Therefore, the time to access a particular piece of information depends upon which piece of information was last accessed. Such characteristic is typical of offline storage. Addressability. Location addressable. Each individually accessible unit of information in storage is selected with its numerical memory address. In modern computers, location addressable storage usually limits to primary storage, accessed internally by computer programs, since location addressability is very efficient but burdensome for humans. File addressable. Information is divided into files of variable length, and a particular file is selected with human readable directory and file names. The underlying device is still location addressable, but the operating system of a computer provides the file system abstraction to make the operation more understandable. In modern computers, secondary, tertiary, and offline storage use file systems. Content addressable. Content addressable storage can be implemented using software computer program or hardware computer device, with hardware being faster but more expensive option. Hardware content addressable memory is often used in a computer's CPU cache. Capacity. Raw capacity is the total amount of stored information that a storage device or medium can hold. It is expressed as a quantity of bits or bytes, e.g. 10.4 megabytes. Memory storage density. The compactness of stored information. It is the storage capacity of a medium divided with a unit of length, area, or volume, e.g. 1.2 megabytes per square inch. Performance. Latency. The time it takes to access a particular location in storage. The relevant unit of measurement is typically nanosecond for primary storage, millisecond for secondary storage, and second for tertiary storage. Throughput. The rate at which information can be read from or written to the storage. In computer data storage, throughput is usually expressed in terms of megabytes per second or MB per second, though bit rate may also be used. Granularity. The size of the largest chunk of data can be efficiently accessed as a single unit, e.g. without introducing more latency. Ability. The probability of spontaneous bit value change under various conditions or overall failure rate. Study section summary. In this study section, we learned that 1. Computer data storage, otherwise known as storage or memory, which is a fundamental component of computers, is a technology consisting of computer components and recording media used to retain digital data. 2. Computer storage hierarchy is made of primary, secondary, and tertiary memory, with the primary memory being the fastest and least in capacity, and in that order. 3. The core characteristics of computer storage are volatility, mutability, accessibility, and addressability, while some other characteristics include capacity, density, and performance measured in terms of latency, throughput, granularity, and ability. This is the end of study section 5. Thanks for listening.